What would have happened if Adam hadn't eaten the fruit? Does this question, which seems simple on the surface, actually contain the greatest questions in human history? Is this oldest story of humanity simply a tale of a fall, or does it whisper unforgettable truths about human nature, will, and destiny? Why are we here? Why is life full of pain and trials? And most importantly, do our choices change our destiny? How would life be if Adam hadn't eaten from that tree? Would destiny change? What does this story represent on an individual and universal level? In this video, we embark on a journey of reflection based on Adam's story, exploring human destiny, will, purpose of existence, and spiritual evolution. Before we begin, I kindly ask you to subscribe, comment, and share your thoughts to support more videos like this. Thank you in advance. Perhaps it would be more appropriate to start with the human project that existed before Adam's creation story and his descent to earth. Because although Adam was created from flesh and bones, in other words, from the clay-like material body mentioned in the verse, he had a soul that existed in the realm of meaning before the material. In other words, Adam's physical existence is a manifestation. The essence is the human soul, created in eternity as a reflection of God's names and attributes. The human being has an essence in the divine plan. This shows that our journey is actually a descent from spirit to matter. The words of Prophet Muhammad actually explain this as well. I was a prophet while Adam was between spirit and body. This statement is interpreted as Prophet Muhammad was a prophet in God's eternal knowledge when Adam was still in the realm of souls, before entering this body regarded as a corpse. This outwardly indicates that the prophethood of Hazrat Muhammad exists as an eternal truth outside the material dimension of time, and that his light existed even before the creation of Adam. At the heart of the human project lies the truth of this essence. This shows that the creation of Adam actually contains the core of consciousness holding humanity's highest potential, that is, the perfect human. In the Sufi tradition, this light is considered the first spark of creation, the first manifestation. The human project began on a metaphysical level, that is, in the realm of souls. Physical conditions like matter, world, time, and space had not yet formed. In that dimension, the Creator formed a mirror to reflect His own truth. In Sufism, this mirror is called the Ahmed mirror, because this mirror is the light that is the essence of all creations. This light is a gem where the names and attributes of Allah first manifested. By the way, the term 99 names is actually a metaphorical expression. The names of the Creator are infinite and can never be limited to a specific number. The infinite names and attributes of the Creator have been reflected in this mirror and have spread from there to the realm of spirits. Here, our souls are reflections, manifestations of these divine names and attributes. Each soul is actually a spiritual manifestation of divine names, like mercy, majesty, beauty, wisdom. Therefore, every person carries a reflection of the divine truth within, and is sent to this world to become aware of this reflection and to mature it. If we summarize without digressing, before Adam was created, he already existed as an entity on the spiritual level. We are also parts of that collective spirit. Each of us carries one name, one aspect of the Creator. Then this spiritual project began to descend to the lower realms to manifest in the material dimension. This descent process is like the transformation of water from vapor to ice. The soul's descent from its most subtle state to the most dense and solid form. The material realm, that is this physical plane we are currently living in, is the lowest of these multi-layered realms. Adam's arrival on earth is the embodiment of this spiritual project at its final stop. But of course, this didn't happen all at once. We shouldn't misunderstand the phrase, he said, be, and it is. This becoming is subject to time and physical laws in the material realm. We cannot ignore the billions of years of evolutionary chain that has been ongoing since the Big Bang. All life forms prior to Homo sapiens sapiens constitute a link in this evolution process. In the realm of matter, everything manifests within a process. In fact, the command was given and the pen has written. However, its manifestation in this physical dimension occurs in a phased evolution process. In other words, evolution. We can briefly summarize the evolutionary stages of the physical realm, which is the manifestation of the spiritual realm, here as follows. First, with the Big Bang, this physical universe we call the cosmos emerged. Time, space, and physical laws were formed. Then the environment necessary for the formation of the universe was prepared. That's how stars, planets, and galaxies were born. The universal infrastructure was prepared. Later, with the emergence of water, atmosphere, and elements on Earth, the conditions for life evolved. Life began by evolving from simple organisms to complex beings. The chain of evolution from unicellular to multicellular organisms, from animals to hominids, evolved towards the first human. At the end of these processes, the divine plan materialized with the bodily form of Adam. We can call this stage the physical manifestation of Adam. The Quran describes Adam's creation in several stages. In the first stage, it says he was created from earth. This represents the material structure of humans, that is, their body. Then he says, I breathed into him from my spirit. This indicates that humans are not just a mass of flesh, but essentially hold a divine quality. The phrase, I breathed into him from my spirit, is a message that must be considered seriously, because it directly represents the divine origin of the human soul and the consciousness it bears. What we call life force, the essence, is something present in every living being, in animals and plants. However, there's another detail here. The Creator has not used this term for any other living being, only for humans. Therefore, this blowing is not just about giving life energy. It's about imparting self-awareness, thinking capacity, free will, and moral values that differentiate us from other beings. The only being in which all the names and attributes of the Creator are settled as a potential, like a seed waiting to crack open, is the human. For those who want to listen to this topic in more detail, I will leave the links to my 2 videos titled The Individual and Universal Journey of Adam and The Secret of Humanity consecutively above. Consciousness is the manifest aspect of the soul and is the fundamental trait that separates humans from other beings. The consciousness, will, and awareness given to humans place them in a completely different position. The potential to be the representative of the Creator on earth. Other living beings also have a soul, of course. But what is unique to Adam is a conscious soul. Animals also live, act as if they think, but they do not possess conscious self-awareness. Consciousness allows humans to ask, who am I? To make choices, and to learn from their mistakes. Adam is a symbol of consciousness and will. When looking at the brain's 3-layered structure, the top layer, which is the conscious region that distinguishes human beings from animals and everything else, is the last region formed in the evolutionary process. The brain development of a fetus in the womb progresses parallel to its development in the evolutionary process. The order given in the verse of Adam's creation is exactly the same as the order of the evolutionary process. First the body, then the soul, then knowledge. That is, first creating from clay and shaping it, then breathing into it, and then teaching it the truth of things. In other words, the mind being educated, transformed, and developed with knowledge. So why the test in paradise? Why was there a prohibition? According to the verses and divine texts, Allah placed Adam in paradise with his spouse. Everything was given for them to live happily there. Only one tree was forbidden. It is said that this prohibition was set to test Adam's will. But why? Didn't the Creator know what his creation would do? Or what would testing this change? Actually, from a deeper perspective, the purpose of this prohibition was not to punish. It was to provide a space where Adam could use his free will. Because a person can only develop if there is an opportunity to make mistakes. Just like when we tell our children not to do something and then wait, sometimes giving them a suitable environment to see what they will do or their mistakes themselves. Knowing something is one thing, experiencing it is another. The moment Adam ate the forbidden fruit, he did not just break a command. He also met his own ego. He became aware of his limitations, desires, and weaknesses. For the first time, he said to himself, "What have I done?" There is the saying that his private parts became visible. This phrase symbolizes the emergence of the dark sides of oneself, namely one's ego. This stage symbolizes a person's confrontation with their ego. It also represents seeing oneself in one's own reflection. Well, if we consider that everything is made up of infinite possibilities, we also need to contemplate the question of what would have happened if he hadn't eaten it. To answer this question, we will need a deeper understanding. Because this question does not limit us only to Adam's paradise adventure, it leads to many deep subjects such as the purpose of human creation, the relationship between soul and body, and the balance between free will and destiny.
If we pay attention, what did God say to the angels in the Quran before Adam was created? "I will create a vicegerent on earth." In other words, Adam being sent to earth was already a predetermined project from the start. Everything was already written and completed in the higher realms. The events here in this plane are merely a playback of a recording. So, does this mean that even if Adam hadn't eaten from that tree, he would have come to earth? Isn't that right? Since the Creator said to the angels before Adam even emerged from the body that he would place a caliph on earth, the plan was already clear from the beginning: to send Adam to earth. This shows that it was Adam's destiny to descend to the earth. But this descent could have been a conscious choice, with awareness, rather than with crime, regret, temptation, like an exile, not under the captivity of the ego. Maybe Adam would say in paradise after a while, "My God, you have given me so much potential, but I cannot develop them here," and would want to descend to earth of his own will, just like a spiritually mature person would. This journey would still take place, but perhaps in a conscious way. After a while, in the peaceful environment of paradise, Adam might realize that he cannot manifest his potentials, and perhaps he would say the following to the Creator: "I want to use these talents you gave me. I need an environment suitable for effort and patience to truly know myself, discover my potentials, and develop them." He would perhaps say, "I want to build my paradise with my own hands. I want to deserve it." And with this decision, he would descend to earth. Because an environment where every wish is granted cannot develop anyone. Just like testing our children to help them grow and offering them opportunities to know themselves. Like placing options before them. Just as we provide limits and opportunities for a child to develop their will, this space was given to Adam as well. This was necessary for him to realize his potential, whether through a conscious choice or by making an unconscious mistake. From here, we actually move on to another topic with the relationship. Does destiny change? What is the delicate relationship between destiny and free choice?
For those who want to hear more details on this topic, I'm placing the link to my video titled, "Are the events that happen to us destiny or free will?" here. To better understand the concept of divine decree, it needs to be evaluated together with the concept of its manifestation in time, which is qada. Predestination is God's knowing and decreeing everything from eternity. In other words, knowing in advance when, how, and in what form events will occur. This is having the knowledge of all possibilities with a transcendent view of time. Qada is the occurrence or manifestation over time of what has been written in fate and the manner in which it takes place. If divine determination is the written state of the divine plan, its manifestation is the enacted state of that plan. But God's knowing everything in advance does not destroy our freedom to make choices, because knowing is not compelling. It does not take away our right to choose. Whatever path we choose, only He knows what will happen on that path. If we choose path A, we live one life. If we choose path B, it's a different life. Both are destiny. So destiny does not change, but living it in which way is in our hands. In life, we face many alternatives. We determine which one we will choose. But only God knows where our choices will lead. Therefore, even if Adam had not eaten that fruit, his coming to earth would have manifested in a different way anyway. Adam had no escape from this fate, but if he had made his choice with his mind rather than his desires, with a higher awareness, it would have been a conscious descent instead of a fall. There's another dimension to this story. The devil that deceived Adam. He was also a part of this plan and story. We also need to consider the story from this perspective. Of course, the devil's whisperings had an effect on Adam's fall. The devil deceives Adam by saying, "This tree is the tree of eternity and power." However, Adam was already in paradise. He was already within eternity. Moreover, even if the body dies, the soul is still eternal. But despite this, how and why was he deceived by the devil's words? With this statement, the devil actually held up a mirror exposing human weaknesses. As a result, he too lives by his own nature. But at the same time, like everything else, he also serves the divine plan. In its own style, in its own nature. Evil is sometimes necessary to realize goodness. The existence of Satan made it possible for humans to make choices. Because if there is no choice, there is no experience. As a result, even if the devil's whisper had not occurred, Adam would still descend to the world. He would still live out his written destiny, just in another way, through another path. The devil here was just a part of the path. After Adam ate the fruit, saw his own ego, regretted and repented. And with Allah accepting this repentance, it shows us that a mistake is not an end, but rather a beginning. Adam stood up again more consciously from where he had fallen. Repentance became the first step of awareness. This shows us that the essential thing is not to never make mistakes, but to learn the truth from our mistakes. To know ourselves, to confront and accept our shortcomings, and to make an effort to improve them without giving up. Many verses have already expressed this. How forgiving and merciful He is. As long as we are sincere and heartfelt, truly experiencing regret and realization, and intend to improve. We should consider this story not just as a fairy tale or solely as Adam's story, but as our own story. All stories, all myths, fairy tales are actually mirrors that reflect us to ourselves. We all encounter the forbidden tree in our lives, even repeatedly. If we can look with eyes that see and read, we notice it every day when we face our own tree. We are experiencing Adam's story within our inner world at every moment. Every moment, with our own will, with our ego, with our mind, with our consciousness, we are making a choice. Of course, every choice is a crossroads. Ultimately, there are two paths in front of us. To ascend by using our willpower, or to fall by succumbing to desires. Even if we fall, we must not forget that every fall is an opportunity to rise. It is an opportunity to meet your mistakes, to regret, to become conscious, and to make a new beginning. Therefore, the issue is not just about eating or not eating the fruit. The issue is what we do with our mistakes. Every path will eventually lead to it, as long as we take conscious steps. If we can learn from Adam's story, it means we are at an advantage. Only then can we aid the meaning of stories and tales to our spirit. The right to choose is a responsibility given to humans. In fact, it is a burden. But at the same time, it is an opportunity to rise and to be the representative of the Creator on earth. Adam ate from that tree. We ask these questions. Now we know, and we are obliged to live what we know, with love and understanding.